Alright, so I sunk the bike pretty bad earlier. My airbox seal was inadequate even with the zip ties on the edges, so I'm going to put probably 3 zip ties on each corner to really latch the lid down. Got enough in there to make the engine shut off. Air filter got wet. I knew better than to try to start it. Pulled it out, didn't even crank it once yet. Pulled the spark plug, because if you crank it with water in the cylinder, and it's hydro locks, it'll start to push the sand and water around the rings and damages the rings and then gets into your oil a little bit. So if you can avoid it, don't start it. So I come along, get in the back of the truck, I'm just checking the oil. So Polaris has a pretty awesome little breather system on here. Oil, as you can see, is dirty, it needs a change, but it's not milky at all. Yes. It's really not that dirty, actually. I could probably go a few more rides on it, and I might. So oil's good. Got the spark plug pulled out. Pretty much have to use the Polaris spark plug tool. But that crankcase breather system they have right there, it utilizes that little duckbill in there. Really good crankcase breather system as far as keeping water out. This little diaphragm thing right here. Oh yeah. When I pulled the dipstick off, here a little suction, which means that little valve in there, that little duckbill, was holding the suction, so it's so it's even airtight. Very interesting crankcase breather system. This darn airbox is not designed to be watertight, so you got to pull both those boots, mainly the big boot, ultra gray, ultra black, whatever you got around it. That's real important. And then I had to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zip ties around it, and then I filled the holes I melted with the flat blade screwdriver for the zip ties with ultra gray, because there were so many holes it would have created a bunch of little leaks. And now that it's actually sealed up pretty tight. That's how many zip ties it took to make this airbox seal right, just because it was so warped and worn out from just bouncing around. Not really impressed with this airbox design, but you really can't talk too much shit about it because this is a trail bike. It's not designed to go in water over the tires, in which case this would never go underwater. You know, it's not an extreme mud racer. Can-Am's airbox leaks just about as bad, comes with a foam gasket on, guess what? The XMR, the Outlander L, the Renegade, whatever you get, same shitty airbox. And they leave half the boot bands loose. So, you know, a little frustrating, but I'm trying to make the bike do something it was never intended, advertised, or designed to do. It's preventative maintenance on the Ace, about to start on the Razor. This is what I put in the main transmission, the back transmission. Synchro mesh. Yep. It's real good stuff. It's way cheaper. It's like $9 a quart. It takes about 1.5 quarts to fill up the back transmission. And you don't want to put gear oil in there because it has a lot of little roller bearings and stuff. The gear oil doesn't do the best job lubricating. You have something thinner than gear oil. This stuff is a lot like the consistency of the Polaris stuff, but it's not as expensive. In the front diff, you've got to run the demand drive fluid for Hillard clutches, or yeah, you see it says for hub or centralized Hillard clutches. This would be a centralized, but you've got to run this stuff as a very, very particular little locker all-wheel drive unit the way it works. And you got to change it a lot. Polaris's gears aren't hardened the best. Go figure, they're cheap. Polaris's are cheap. So a lot of metal gets generated in there, and the main reason you change the front fluid a lot is to clean off the magnet, because if the magnet gets so much metal on it that it can't collect it, that metal will start going through, from the ring and pinion will start going through the locker mechanism with the little rollers and the sprag cage and the little everything, and it'll get all tore up. So you got to change the fluid a lot. It only takes a little bit of fluid. Like a quart will do like 3 or 4 changes, I think, maybe more than that. So it only takes a little bit of fluid, so you want to change it a lot. The back transmission, it's just a transmission. All that's in there are some selectors, some bearings and stuff. I don't change it as often. I don't go by the maintenance schedule because I do my stuff about 10 times more than that because I'm pretty hard on it. But every other time I change the front diff, or every third sometimes I change the transmission. Engine oil, I go off of hours. I do whatever half the recommended hours are because, like I said, I'm pretty hard on stuff. Engine oil, also got to run the Polaris oil. It's real expensive, but the way their motors are, they blow up sometimes for no reason. So why give them an extra reason, right? So yeah, just got to do your fluids a lot on these things. Fluid maintenance is key. And keep a nice air filter on there like that giant uni.